Scientists have at last disclosed what lies at the bottom of the Oak Island money grave. It's similar to a traditional tale about concealed riches and traps, but with a twist. Despite the fact that we know precisely where the treasure is concealed, recovering it has proven to be an arduous task. In most instances, the greatest difficulty in locating buried treasure is in locating it. In this case, however, it is retrieving it that poses the greatest challenge. Numerous individuals have theorized and attempted to solve this issue, but no one has yet been successful. The mystery encircling Oak Island and its fabled lost wealth has attracted countless treasure hunters for over 2 centuries, but scientists have now revealed what is at the bottom of the Oak Island money pit. Despite the efforts of numerous people, including notable figures such as Franklin D. Roosevelt, Errol Flynn, and John Wayne, the treasure remains stubbornly buried in the earth, resulting in the deaths of several people. In 1795, a man named Daniel McGinnis discovered a strange circular depression on an uninhabited island off the coast of Nova Scotia. McGinnis, a fan of the genre, decided to investigate the depression after hearing rumors that Captain Kidd had buried 2 million pounds of treasure east of Boston. The following day, McGinnis and his companions returned to the site and began excavating. Initially, the ground was very soft, but after roughly 3 meters, they struck something solid. It was a piece of oak, not a hoard of gold. Initially, this did not appear to be much, but as the men delved deeper, they discovered another plank, and then another. Along the sidewalls of the trench they were excavating, they also observed what appeared to be pick and shovel marks. Someone excavated and then filled in the trench many years ago. Due to the island's size and isolation, it is highly unlikely that someone dug such a large and deep grave for any purpose other than to conceal something of great value. The search for the missing treasure of Captain Kidd had officially begun. However, despite vertically descending the equivalent of 3 stories, no treasure was discovered. The workers ran out of resources, time, equipment, and people, and gave up constructing the massive hole in the earth, henceforth referred to as the Money Pit. The Money Pit on Oak Island had attracted treasure hunters from all over the world, despite the fact that excavation had been abandoned following a failed initial attempt. In 1802, 30 men from the neighboring hamlet of Onslaught arrived with shovels and pickaxes and began excavating the ditch, making it deeper than it had been previously. Approximately 27 meters in depth, they discovered a large stone engraved with a cipher that, when deciphered, would disclose a hidden message, as well as wooden platforms spaced at 3-meter intervals. 10 feet down, 2 million pounds are concealed. However, disaster struck just as it appeared that Captain Kidd's treasure had been found. The Onslaught personnel returned to the money pit one morning to discover that it had been completely submerged by 18 meters of water. Due to this strange and unanticipated event, the extracted shaft is now useless and cannot be used for further excavation. The Onslaught's troops, undeterred by their defeats, resolved to dig a shaft parallel to the money pit in order to access the treasure from the side. The fact that the second shaft also filled rendered their efforts futile and compelled them to abandon their goal. Another determined search for Captain Kidd's concealed treasure did not commence for nearly 50 years. In 1849, a team from Toro arrived and redigged the 2 holes that the Onslaught crew had dug. The water filled the openings once more, rendering their efforts futile. The Toro firm observed an anomaly that the Onslaught crew did not notice. A portion of the water in the pits was mildly salty, and its level appeared to vary with the tide. This suggested that seawater was finding its way into the money pit, which was located approximately 40 meters inland. Following a search of the island's shores, the crew discovered the beginning of a small canal that led to the money pit, which was located deep below. This was the first indication of the odd, unexplainable events that would plague the search for Captain Kidd's wealth. The treasure hunters were determined to obtain Captain Kidd's loot, but the discovery of the mined flood system was a significant setback. Despite the apparent value of whatever was at the bottom of the hole, accessing it was exceedingly difficult due to the elaborate security measures in place. The Toro crew dug numerous shafts to approach the pit from a variety of directions, but their efforts were frequently thwarted by water and sudden cave-ins. They were ultimately compelled to abandon their search for the treasure, forever altering the allure of Oak Island. Since then, swarms of people have flocked to Oak Island in the hopes of excavating the money pit's buried riches. Over the past 170 years, countless explorers have flocked to Oak Island in quest of the rumored legendary treasure buried at the bottom of the money pit. Some have attempted to avoid the complex booby traps in the flood tunnels, while others have dug ditches on other parts of the island, frequently at the cost of human life and spawning fanciful rumors of a curse. In spite of the development of ever more advanced instruments, such as steam pumps in the 1860s and divers in 1909, treasure hunters have attempted and failed throughout history. Even though they sent apparatus for digging and divers to the island in 1909, the old gold salvage gang was unable to break Oak Island's curse. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the future president of the United States, is rumored to have been a member of the original Gold Savage Group and to have been fascinated by its mystery throughout his entire existence. Errol Flynn and John Wayne, two of Hollywood's greatest stars of the 1930s, donated money to multiple expeditions. According to legend, King George VI of England instructed 2 treasure hunters to submit their finds. Despite numerous searches, the treasures of Oak Island have evaded discovery. Rick and Marty Lagina, brothers who were filming their treasure search on Oak Island for the History Channel, were in charge. The fact that this is the 9th season of the program could be indicative of how successful their quest has been thus far. The siblings have unearthed a variety of intriguing artifacts, such as money, weapons, and jewelry, but they have yet to find Captain Kidd's legendary loot. The longer one searches without discovering the treasure, the more reasonable it becomes to question its very existence. The story should be regarded as a myth, despite the fact that many people have searched for his riches. The discovery of evidence that Daniel McGinnis had discovered the money pit in the 1790s did not occur until 1857. In addition, the account differs based on the cited source. There is little evidence to suggest that Captain Kidd concealed valuables on Oak Island, and the popular conception of pirates is wholly fictitious. Walking the plank and other stereotypes, such as parrots and prosthetic legs, are not supported by substantial evidence. The portrayal of Robin Newton as Long John Silver in the 1950 film adaptation of Treasure Island also contributed to the mythologizing of the infamous pirate incident. Contrary to conventional belief, there is only one well-documented case of a pirate actually burying treasure, and it wasn't them. Captain William Kidd. Be sure to stay informed and subscribe for more information on recent discoveries and findings. On Gardner Island, 500 miles away, Kidd buried his wealth, which was discovered less than a year later and used as evidence in his trial and execution. However, it is also conceivable that Kidd hid treasure on Oak Island. Why would Kidd, or any pirate for that matter, go through the trouble of excavating a 30-meter-deep booby-trapped pit to conceal treasure if the objective was merely to keep anything valuable secure? A few meters would have sufficed, correct? Even if Kidd did bury wealth on Oak Island, it is likely lost forever due to the inability of modern technology, such as ground-penetrating radar, to discover it. In 1995, the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution conducted a scientific investigation of Oak Island to locate any concealed treasure. As a result of their investigation, the crew came to the disappointing conclusion that the fabled inundation of the money pit was not the result of a complex trap, but rather the result of natural geological processes on the island. In Nova Scotia, near Oak Island, there are sinkholes that share some characteristics with the original money pit. Even if the cryptography stones and oak platforms discovered in the money pit appear to disprove this theory, it is important to note that many of these critical pieces of evidence have not vanished despite having been a part of the Oak Island legend for more than a century. Scientists are astounded by a startling new discovery, which can be viewed by clicking the following video.
The Oak Island team steps back so that the Dumas Contracting Company team can start drilling in this episode. The business is ready to start the job and has everything it needs. Is it possible that new things will be found? How did the team get past problems to reach their goal? The most important question is, where is the wealth that was buried? Stay tuned as we keep looking for the treasure that has been hidden for a long time. Early in the morning, the drilling company starts by planning how to dig the yard shaft all the way down. For about 6 hours, the flooded water has to be drained out of the garden shaft. Then, debris and artifacts have to be pulled out, wood sets have to be added, and the tube underground has to be made clear enough to be explored. The first step in the process seems to be putting together a very strong and useful tool called the hammer grab, which weighs more than 3 tons and is used for digging. After the dig, the team plans to build new 8-foot-tall wooden levels to try to link to the confirmed but still unexplored tunnel. Different artifacts found by the Oak Island team during their past drilling have proven that the tunnel is there. Some of the water that was pumped out has been seen and studied so far and found to contain gold and other things. But there is one thing that stands out from what they saw. The water that was covered in gold didn't seem to come from the garden shaft. Instead, it seemed to come from the baby blob, which is west of the garden shaft. It was found that the baby blob had the most metal and other artifacts compared to other parts of the money pit, through past study and excavation efforts. The team has a lot of hopes for both during and after the addition of the shaft area. A lot of people are positive, excited about the discoveries that will be made, and interested in where they came from. The team was able to figure out the right way for their excavation work by looking at maps and past observations of the land. The garden shaft was the best place to begin the addition at any height and on a flat surface. With this going on, an area of up to 80 feet can be dug up, explored, and watched. This is a large underground area that should yield many artifacts during the process. One thing is certain about this whole operation: good things will happen, even though the team will face some problems along the way. Another good thing is that some problems are easy to solve with the help of the team's partners at Dumas Contracting Limited. The drilling company is helpful when there is no way to get to places with a lot of metal materials. They can also help with additions if needed. If we're lucky, no prize will be forgotten and the chances of finding the lost treasure are higher than ever. The Dumas team starts the job on a good note, ready to find out more. A few hours into the workday, some team members met in the war room as normal. But this time, it was to have a meeting with someone from Idean Technologies. The purpose of the meeting was to go over the scientific reports of the money pit. A lot of the Oak Island team seems worried about what the reports might say. The study was mostly useful, and the Idean Technology team worked hard to make sure it was correct. In the money pit area, the tech team put about 14 monitors into 5 boreholes. It's very, very deep, but most of the sensors were only 80 to 250 feet below the ground. This is very, very close to the tube. It wasn't just recently that the investigation was done. It happened as early as 2021, and it took almost 2 years to do all the necessary studies. This means that the report's conclusions are not based on quick observations, but on thorough study and testing. Based on the story, it looks like the sensors could pick up muons even when they were buried several feet deep. The representative said there were specific things to look for, like suits, voids, tubes that cross at the money pit, and strange things happening underground. The reports were shown clearly, showing how full the money pit was. The 3D picture shows that the areas with moderate density are yellow, the areas with low density are blue dots, and the areas with high density are orange and red. Based on how you look at it, places with a high density are more likely to have treasures, while areas with a low density are more likely to have tunnels, voids, or vaults. Based on the picture, the result is good overall. What should be the baby blob was found about 65 feet below the money pit, west of the garden shaft. There was a lot of stuff there. More than 112 feet below the surface, however, there is a low-density area. The team has a conflict of interest because the results mean they might not be able to get to the high-density area because Dumas Limited is still running. Luckily, this isn't the only place where there are a lot of people.
It's both abundant wood for fuel and simple access to water for dilution of clay. It must be stressed that this is all conjecture, but it is intriguing to consider the possibility that Oak Island structures are related to ancient furnaces. In the slideshow, you can view a variety of kiln structures, including European and Roman-era examples. Are you not in agreement that the similarities are quite striking? Next, we will consider the shape. The notion that it might be a kiln was predominantly prompted by its appearance. Note the manner in which it expands. This may imply that there is more to learn than we are currently aware of. The debris-covered ring is clearly visible in a photograph. Now, this detritus could serve as part of the foundation, similar to the stone wall on Lot 26. Alternately, filling in with detritus could be the result of a construction project on Oak Island. If they had been digging tunnels, they would have needed to dispose of a great quantity of waste, and this area would have been ideal. When examining another image of a Roman kiln, be mindful of how far back it extends. Please take note of the large number of small fragments arranged in long rows to form concentric rings, which resembles what we observe on Oak Island. If this is a kiln, it may resemble this type, and where they are currently excavating may be the primary chamber. Remember how, in one of the most recent episodes of Curse of Oak Island, they made a hollow sound by striking a boulder at the bottom of the hole. They may still be required to reach the firebox area. Those fragments with the hollow sound could be protecting the fireplace after all. Currently, we are still determining how the temporary superstructure was constructed. It could have been built with rocks or something entirely distinct. However, this is not the only event that occurred at Oak Island, astonished that the entire world. There is still more. Both the stone wall on Lot 26 and the pine tar furnace on Lot 15 contained fragments of charcoal. That indicates the presence of fire. They also discovered a piece of pottery, which provides additional insight into what the object may be. The images depict numerous kiln structures discovered by the University of York throughout Europe. They date back to the Roman era, proving that this technology is not new. Immediately, focus on the kiln on Lot 5. Observing the proximity to the water is intriguing. Regardless, let's dissect this and have some fun. First, visualize the mysterious setting in which we find ourselves. This location may be optimal for a covert operation. What if we told you a kiln could be hidden there? A kiln indeed. In episode 4 of season 11 of The Curse of Oak Island, the group drills further in an attempt to locate the misplaced tunnel while continuing their quest in the vicinity of the money pit. Will further investigation result in the identification of the misplaced treasure? What recent discoveries have the archaeology and excavation team made? Will this episode achieve success, or will further attempts be required in light of the progress that has been made thus far? We shall investigate primordial history by employing contemporary technologies, knowledge, and abilities. The episode commences with Oak Island's crew resuming their quest, which this time includes a greater number of sources for consultation. As they progress through the tasks, Alex declares that the drilling operation of D5. Additionally, the tunnel may contain a significant quantity of metallic substances, and an examination of its contents may reveal that they are exclusively oriented in the western direction towards the baby blob. Following a sequence of incisions and 53 feet into the target, the drilling apparatus extracted an enigmatic discovery encased in exceptionally damp and soft subterranean soil. Based on prior research, this appears to be a reliable indicator, as this soil type is typically indicative of proximity to a tunnel. An additional team member convenes a meeting in the war room with a Dumas Contracting Ltd representative to deliberate on the latest developments concerning their ongoing investigation into the misplaced treasure. The mining and construction company's disclosure of new information prompted Oak Island's team to resume work after suspending a task. The regulations governing drilling and excavation activities were ultimately sanctioned and authorized by the Ministry of Labor in Nova Scotia. Finally, Dumas construction can advance the garden shaft's deepening. The subsequent course of action for the group, following the confirmation, is to accelerate their observation and analysis of specific marked areas prior to the major operation impeding their research. Gary Drayton and Peter Fornetti, the team's metal detector specialists, are similarly engrossed in their investigation along the shoreline. In this episode, the focus of the duo's investigation is the shoreline of Lot 5. Their objective is to discover indicators that serve as clues to the presence of iron historical artifacts, metal materials, or other concealed treasures. Potential regions were delineated using flags, and the archaeologist's focal point, the location where ships rested, was also identified. Surprisingly, additional indications of activity have been discovered, given that the Oak Island treasure has been the subject of exploration and public examination by numerous interested parties since its disclosure in 1795. Additionally, some inexplicable activities, such as the clandestine burying of treasures by multiple individuals, including lead barter tokens, 2,000-year-old Roman coins, and Smith's Coven lead cross, may be linked to such activities. Evidently, a granite slab was erected in the exact center of Lot 5 with the intention of enclosing and sealing something beneath the surface. Additionally, in close proximity to the shoreline of the park, one may encounter a circular depression region originating in the late 1600s that bears resemblance to the garden shaft. The metal detector specialists made the decision to investigate the regions delineated by the flag, and their apparatus validated the precision of their assessment. Metal was detectably present beneath the surface of the ground. Following meticulous excavation, a cribbing spike was discovered and determined to have been utilized in the majority of the island's construction. An additional identified location yielded the handle of a snipping instrument, which was traced back to the 1970 discovery of hand-forged iron scissors of Spanish origin by Dan Blankenship. Comparatively speaking, this snipping utility appears to be accurate. For scanning, both artifacts were placed in bags. Approximately 50 years from the shore, the team's archaeologists were diligently excavating the rectangular depression, which is presumed to be associated with the garden shaft. Helen asserts that the rectangular depression is exceedingly uncommon, and this marks her inaugural attempt at addressing one in her extensive professional experience. The distinctive characteristic is that the foundation was buried so deeply that it appeared to be an intentional concealment designed to evade detection. It appears that something occurred on Lot 5, and every effort was made to conceal any evidence of it. Revealing the enigma requires meticulous excavation. Jack offered his assistance in the sifting of the excavated soil from the depression. An addition to drill 100 feet into the money pit region continued for a number of hours. Nevertheless, an additional pivotal revelation was unveiled in D5N27. Alongside the tunnel, timber shaft evidence suggests the existence of an additional structure that extends in an easterly direction. It appears that the wood at the newly discovered tunnel is more robust, healthier, and in closer proximity to the surface than the wood that was initially sought after for the tunnel. 101 to 95 feet into the drilling process, the drilling machine drew in an additional object. This time, a substantial mass of moist soil containing scattered materials in addition to wood confirmed the existence of a second tunnel to the east of the garden shaft. The team would have made additional discoveries. Nevertheless, their borrowed time had expired, and it was now the turn of the Dumas Contracting Company and Irving Contracting Ltd. teams to contribute their considerable efforts. The companies brought with them robust machinery, including 109-ton cranes that are practical for hoisting large appliances and a 3-ton hammer grab tool. The contracting companies commenced the assembly process while Alex and the rest of the team exercise in a new area. East of the garden shaft, a new borehole drilling operation designated C5N27 is scheduled to commence. To further investigate the newly discovered tunnel, which is estimated to be 7.5 feet in diameter and more than 100 feet deep into the soil, a new area is being drilled. An additional objective of the C5N27 drilling operation is to facilitate the construction of a more robust conduit from beneath the garden shaft, as desired by the Oak Island team. The team worked as quickly as possible to drill the new borehole due to time constraints and the fact that certain areas of the site would be off-limits to observation and analysis for safety reasons, while the construction company performed heavy labor. Certain individuals on the team harbored aspirations of investigating the recently unearthed artifacts at the Interpretive Center on Oak Island. Carmen Legg, an authority on blacksmithing, was consulted to examine what appeared to be a snipping